Palkia into Dustmane Necrozma, 2 better response in the back. We safe switch into Heatran, and this is why you shouldn't safe switch something with a double weakness. I did wonder what we're on in Earth Power for, and apparently this is why. Welcome back to the channel. Buckle up, because today we have an absolute banger of a battle submission from my good friend Rigo. Rigo is a greatly improved battler, so much so he actually hit #1 in the world last season. Rigo's been flexing his crazy IV Shadow Heatran he was able to obtain recently from Girvannis, which is a 15-14-14. Really, some people do get all the luck. Mine has like 3 legs. It's like a 10-11-8 or something. It is awful. Now is actually the perfect time to be showcasing this Pokemon. As of yesterday, the 22nd of the 3rd, 2020-25, Heatran has just returned to raids. So you can go out there and grind the XL candy if you also want something that's not only going to hard punish Kyurem, but then fairies and steel types too, which is essentially the Master League meta condensed. We've got a double steel strategy with Solgaleo in the back and Palkia in the lead position. Without any further ado, let's get into the battle. And in game 1, we've got some Palkia on Palkia action. Rigo will be very happy to catch Palkia in the lead position. Both our steel types, of course, will be resisting that Dragon Breath, but in the double resisted with a quick move of Fire Spin. Both trainers farm up. Rigo wins the charge attack priority, nuking the opponent through 2 Protect Shields, and we see the safe switch into Solgaleo. I'm very surprised Heatran continued to stay in. Rigo takes the initiative, fires off the Iron Head, and that is the second nuke that lands through 2 Protect Shields. The opponent farm up to the double CC, but Solgaleo so incredibly thick. The opponent fires off the close combat that hits for neutral, but doesn't even do half our health. The opponent then sends out Kyurem, and this game is over. The opponent's got 2 shields and a Kyurem, or a Kyurem as I like to call it, which is usually a pretty good strategy, but they simply cannot shield fast moves. We fire off back-to-back Psychic Fangs, double debuff in their defense, and Heatran hits the field of play. Heatran invests that Protect Shield, gonna return fire with the Magma Storm. Magma Storm forces the opponent's final Protect Shield, and back out comes Xerneas. This is the hardest move left in the game. We correctly shield at the close combat. Back out comes Kyurem. Kyurem probably can't even knock us out with any one move. Fusion Bolt simply doesn't get the job done. We Fire Spin farm down and will be emerging victorious. GG's, and thanks for playing. In the next battle, we see Dawnwing's Necrozma in the lead position. These Dragon Breaths tearing through Necrozma's HP. The opponent farm to a potential Moongeist Beam. Rigo respects it and correctly shields up that hard-hitting nuke. Rigo heavily overfarms, fires off the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail forces the opponent's first Protect Shield. Rigo doubled up, goes straight for the next Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail won't quite be lethal, but will enable a Dragon Breath farm down afterwards. Primarina enters the arena. Jamie Finn's a poet and he didn't know it. We see the safe switch into Solgaleo and out comes Rhyperior. Rigo looking to land the super effective Iron Head. Iron Head lands, instantly putting them below half health. So how this ABB team should work is we should be safe switching Solgaleo, looking to bait out Rhyperior. Not that this is particularly a good matchup. However, the charge moves on Rhyperior should be fully walled, as most will be running Breaking Swipe and Rock Wrecker. A few do run Surf that of course would hit for neutral. However, when Solgaleo can soften this thing up and clear the path for Heatran to avoid it. The opponent fire off the Breaking Swipe, which isn't lethal, and we pivot back out into Heatran. Rigo looks to call the bait. Oof, we get nuked through our Protect Shield. Mud Slap farm down, and unfortunately this one will be ending in defeat. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see the Kentucky Fried Chicken, a Bird of Death, the shiny Shadow variant as well. What a flex. A commanding lead for Palkia, as we are double resisting that oppressive Incinerate damage, and these Aqua Tails are going to hit for super effective, as are the Shadow, the Dragon Breath also tearing through their HP. The opponent invests the Protect Shield, fire off the Brave Bird, forcing their Protect Shield back. Out comes Dialga, and Solgaleo hits the field of play. In this battle of steel types, you'd much prefer to be Solgaleo, as Solgaleo is hitting for neutral with a quick move, and has the ability to continually debuff Dialga's defense, whereas the opponent is going to need to run Thunder to even hit for neutral. Although with that being said, Roar of Time is a very hard hitting move, and even when resisted, we'll be putting Solgaleo into the red health range, but Solgaleo shrugs off the damage, Fire Spin farms down, back out comes Ho-Oh. Rigo recognises the fact that despite we are in 1 Incinerate range, he can throw 1 Fire Spin and the charge move, getting it off before the Incinerate registers. Rigo sends back out Palkia, sees Ho-Oh is still on the screen, fires off the Aqua Tail, forcing the final Protect Shield of the game. Rigo happy to match Protect Shield, shields up the Brave Bird. Out comes Kyurem. Kyurem will be looking for that Ice Fang farm down, but Palkia says no, fires off the Spatial Rend. The Spatial Rend easily picks up the one-hit KO. Heatran gonna get a well-deserved rest on the bench, as that is all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see a commanding lead. The opponent say switches into the OG Tin Can Dialga, not the Origin form, and we send out Heatran. These stab fire spins are doing absurd damage. Rigo invests the Protect Shield, correctly shielding up the Thunder, then farms up to the double Magma Storm. The opponent very unlikely to shield. Knowing they're not going to be able to take back switch, Rigo keeps alive, but at the cost of one Protect Shield. Back out comes Kyogre. Heatran fires off the Earth Power. Earth Power does a solid chunk, and Heatran is going to get Waterfall farm down. Of course, Palkia will be returning. We pivot out into Solgaleo, and it's Primarina in the back. If the opponent was on Waterfall, I think this game could get close. However, on Charm, I really don't see too many win cons. The opponent actually calls the bait, despite us having the energy for the Iron Head. But I don't think that's going to save him. Rigo shields up the Hydro Cannon again, farms the Iron Head, throws the Psychic Fangs, knowing the opponent's forced to shield this, as this is their win con. Primarina now not resisting these fire spins particularly well. With their slow pace, and Rigo's able to outpace to the next Psychic Fangs, forcing their final protection. The opponent pivots back out into Kyogre. We bank some energy and send out Palkia. Palkia going to be greeted with the Thunder, but Thunder simply doesn't get the job done. Palkia going to get that full Dragon Breath farm down. The opponent finally recognises this is an unwinnable game, and they concede the match. In the next battle, we see Landorus in the lead. Very nice to catch Landorus in the lead position with a double steal backline. Rigo throws the Aqua Tail soon as he gets it, and the opponent makes a very nice catch, catching onto Kyurem. Kyurem, or Kyurem, as you all like to tell me it's pronounced, is answered by Heatran. Rigo instantly no shield, tanks the Fusion Bolt, putting us into the red. But thankfully for us, these Ice Fangs are double resisted. Rigo farms up to the double Magma Storm. The opponent knows we're doubled up and reluctant to shield. However, they might shield Landorus. If they don't respect this Magma Storm, oof, they're instantly put into the red health range. Heatran putting in so much work. Landorus banks his energy, and out comes a shiny Tin Can. Usually in the two shield scenario, Dialga is pretty good, but Solgaleo might have a little something to say about that. The opponent doesn't shield the first Psychic Fangs, of course, which is the correct play, but they're going to be forced to start shielding up resisted Psychic Fangs, or they're just going to die to fast move pressure. The opponent's still playing it out, but this game looks signed, sealed, and delivered. Former meta Kingpin, BDD, a lot of people call Best Buddy Dialga, I like to call it Basic Bitch Dialga, goes to the Iron Head bait, hoping that might change their fate. The opponent then go for the wham, bam, combo play, send back out Landorus, fire off a Santia Storm, picking up the knockout, but Palkia, Dragon Breath farms down. Dialga is so low, it's going to fall victim of yet more Dragon Breath damage, and the opponent concedes the match. In the next battle, we see another Palkia mirror. I anticipate Rigo playing this the same way, staying in and going straight for his Spatial Rend. He does exactly that, and again, he's able to win the charge attack priority. Is the opponent going to invest the Protect Shield? Yes, they are. Rigo at this point going to say, enjoy yourself, trainer. Full send the nuke and you can have it. I'm going to take my 2-to-1 shield advantage. The opponent full sends their own Spatial Rend. We send out Solgaleo. The opponent pivots out into Kyurem, and Kyurem is going to be greeted with an Iron Head. The opponent all down one Protect Shield. Are they willing to 2-shield? No, they're not. Big damage, and Heatran hits the field of play with a 2-to-1 shield advantage. Rigo going to be giving up one of them Protect Shields in exchange for a very nice energy lead. Rigo gets a full Fire Spin farm down. Back out comes Palkia. Palkia double resisting the Fire Spins and Magma Storm, but Magma Storm should get the job done from here, surely. Or if it actually doesn't, Rigo unable to Fire Spin farm down before the Aqua Tails reach. Rigo going to go all in on Heatran, and my, is that the correct decision, as out comes the opponent's own Solgaleo. Solgaleo going to invest the Protect Shield on the first Magma Storm. The opponent throws the Psychic Fang, Steel does resist Psychic, and this simply will not get the job done. Heatran holds strong, reaches the Magma Storm. Is it going to one-shot? Not quite. Heatran able to Fire Spin farm down. Heatran absolutely popping off. Back out comes Palkia. We resisted Fire Spin farm down and take that game. In the next battle, we see Landorus in the lead. The last opponent did catch the Aqua Tail. Rigo goes straight for the Aqua Tail again. This opponent doesn't make a catch, but they are able to debuff us before the Aqua Tail is fired. Santia Storm puts us down to around a half health. The opponent shield the Aqua Tail despite it being debuffed. Rigo once again goes straight for the Aqua Tail. Again playing to the CMP tie, he does not win, but he's more than happy to invest a Protect Shield, knowing he's getting off this Aqua Tail and hopefully remove this threat to our backline from the field of play. The debuffed Aqua Tail doesn't quite get the job done. Rigo As he's running an ABB strategy, is spamming the switch. We switch out into Solgaleo. Dialga temporarily makes an appearance, and out comes Kyurem. Kyurem going to be greeted with the Iron Head, which sneaks through the final protection, and this game looks over. Of course, Rigo is never ever shielding this move up. He knows Heatran is the key to victory. Fusion Flare gets us low, the opponent able to Ice Fang farm down, but now they're nothing but free farm for Heatran. Heatran hits the field of play, gets a massive free fire spin running start. Back out comes Dialga, and we are going for style points. Full send in the Earth Power. Earth Power. Boo. Forces the final Protect Shield, but that's fine. Rigo going to be investing his final Protect Shield here. The opponent go for the Iron Head bait, but let me tell you that no bait will be saving this opponent's fate. We reach the Magma Storm. Magma Storm hits for neutral, gets them deep into the red. Quick switch into Palkia. The Dragon Breath farm down, and we take that game. In the next battle, we see Dustmane Necrozma. We see the save switch into Heatran, and this is why you shouldn't save switch something with a double weakness. Out comes Rhyperior. I did ask why we're running Earth Power, and Rigo said, for this matchup specifically, Earth Power, big damage, but unable to flip switch. Rhyperior now gets a massive energy lead. Rigo gonna wait out his clock, send out Palkia. Breaking Swipe super effective, but Rock Wrecker does do more. Rigo calls the opponent just going to fire for Breaking Swipe, and then one further Breaking Swipe for the road. Breaking Swipe gets us into the red. We get a full Dragon Breath farm down, and Rigo is spamming the switch, hoping the opponent is core broken by Solgaleo. Ask and you shall receive. If you don't see Kyurem in the lead, trust me, it's probably in the back, as it's almost on every team. I think in this battle, if Rigo would have stuck to the strategy of safe switching in Solgaleo, would have been in a much better position. However, let's see if we can still get the job done. Despite being down a Protect Shield, Rigo just going Psychic Fang after Psychic Fangs, knowing the opponent needs to start shielding at some point. However, speaking of shielding, Rigo going to burn the final Protect Shield, blocking up the Fusion Bolt. Rigo doesn't commit to the full Fire Spin farm down, opts to throw the Psychic Fangs. Solgaleo desperately running out of HP. We attempt to snipe with Palkia. The opponent says no. Send back out Solgaleo. Solgaleo greeted with the Aqua Tail. The opponent doesn't commit to the farm down. Does this give us a wink on? Dark Pulse picks up the knockout. Solgaleo comes in, looking for that full Fire Spin farm down. Unfortunately, unable to get it. We Simul KO and take a heartbreaking loss. GG's to that opponent. In the next battle, we see a Purified Rhyperior in the lead position. Somewhat of a core breaker for us, despite us being a water type and the opponent being a ground type. Of course, we're more or less operating as a dragon type attacker. Rhyperior can actually win this in the 2-shield scenario, going straight Breaking Swipe. Due to them having a pacing advantage, you can see the opponent's already at the next Breaking Swipe before the Aqua Tail's reach. Breaking Swipe gets us into the red. Thankfully, the Aqua Tail will be landing on its intended target. Aqua Tail forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. We pivot out into Solgaleo. The opponent bangs a bucket load of energy, attempt to catch an Iron Head onto Palkia. The catch attempt is unsuccessful, and it's going to be death by Psychic Fangs. Of course, you don't really want to throw an Iron Head in this scenario, as it is resisted, so you may as well just continually debuff their defense and apply more and more fast move pressure. Rigo still one Protect Shield, instantly no shield Solgaleo, knowing he survives the Aqua Tail and should still reach one departing Psychic Fangs. We're putting it all on Heatran, but Heatran still has to contend with that Rhyperior with loaded energy. Psychic Fangs gets Palkia into the red health range. The opponent fire off the Aqua Tail, removing us from the field of play. Heatran comes out, gets a 1 Fire Spin running start, and Rhyperior re-enters the arena. This is almost certainly going to be a Breaking Swipe bait. But Rigo, not wanting to risk it, opts to invest the final Protect Shield. Rigo then fires off the Magma Storm. Magma Storm is resisted, isn't quite enough to knock out. Out comes Kyurem. Rigo gonna fire off the Magma Storm. Magma Storm hits for neutral, but unfortunately isn't going to knock out from here. It gets them into the yellow health range. We then pivot out into Palkia, looking to force the energy. Can Rigo win this battle? I'm going to say no, but let's see what happens. Heatran comes in, looks to the Fire Spin farm down. The opponent able to reach the departing charge move, and unfortunately that team comp a little bit too much for us. GG's to that opponent. In the next battle, Palkia into Xerneas, a dreadful lead. Once again, we're opting to say switch Heatran, and again we're met with a ground type. I'm not entirely sure why Rigo has opted to start safe switching Heatran as opposed to Solgaleo. I think Solgaleo is objectively a better safe switch because it doesn't have that double weakness to ground. Although Groudon a much better matchup than Rhyperior, as ground does not resist fire, and they're also running Mod Shot as opposed to Mod Slap, which isn't applying anywhere near as much fast move pressure. Rigo actually able to force himself a shield advantage here in the mid game matchup. We send out Palkia. Palkia going to be operating as the damage sponge. Precipice Blade, one of the hardest hitting moves in the game, does massive damage, but Rigo able to Dragon Breath farm down. We send out Solgaleo. Pray into the Poke gods and them algorithm gods that Solgaleo is a core breaker. Solgaleo going to be investing in Protect Shield. The opponent go for the Moonblast bait, which certainly suggests they could be core broken, as that means the opponent intends to stay in. At this point I say it's 50-50, Kyurem or Dialga. The opponent pivots out into Dialga right on cue. Solgaleo fires off the Psychic Fangs, which doesn't do much of anything. But Rigo already at the next one, and this now puts a 2-stage debuff on their defense, meaning these neutral fire spins are really going to start chunking. Solgaleo with so much energy already at the third Psychic Fangs, putting the opponent below half health. Looks like Rigo will actually outpace to the Psychic Fangs, but he's opting not to throw, instead going for the one shield and full fire spin farm down. Xerneas re-enters the arena. We've got the energy for the Iron Head, but go for the Psychic Fangs bait. Psychic Fangs forces the final Protect Shield. Rigo able to reach the next Psychic Fangs, and that looks like CMP to me. Psychic Fangs gets the opponent deep into the red. Can Palkia clean up? The opponent fire off the close combat debuff in their defense. Palkia re-enters the arena, gets the double resisted Dragon Breath farm down, leaving with the Aqua Tail good to go. Aqua Tail is resisted, but Palkia is a Dialga counter confirmed, and we take that game. To round out today's video, we've got a slight change of team. We've got Landorus in the lead with Palkia and Heatran in the back. It looks like Rigo is getting fed up of losing to them Rhyperior. In this Landorus mirror, we go straight for the Stone Edge, once again winning charge attack priority. Rigo winning all the CMP ties today. The opponent return fire with their own Stone Edge, and we see the simultaneous swap with Rigo very much coming out on top. Kyurem gonna fire off a charge move. Rigo looks like he's going for the one shield. Full Dragon Breath farm down, meaning Landorus are very unlikely to return, as we've got all the energy in the world. I'll be honest, I'm in somewhat disbelief. Landorus re-enters the arena. We fire off the Aqua Tail, the opponent completely sack it and send out Solgaleo. Solgaleo going to be greeted with yet another Aqua Tail, and Palkia says there's plenty more of where that came from. Rigo actually banks his energy, sends out Heatran. Heatran instantly going to no shield, saying, trainer, throw whatever you want. They go for the Psychic Fangs. Look at this disgusting fire spin damage. The opponent has simply had enough and they concede the match. Heading into the next battle, our target has been acquired. Rhyperior opting to stay in. Rigo goes to the correct 7 mud shots and the Sancia Storm. Sancia Storm not only hits a super effective, but also debuffs the opponent's attack. The opponent farms to the Rock Wrecker. Rigo says, smells like a bait to me, and what a call as the opponent go for the breaking swipe that doesn't do much of anything. Rigo again throws the next Sancia Storm. A very disciplined timing. Rigo won't mind me saying, he was able to hit #1 in the world last season, and one of the things he's really improved on is fast move timing. I used to always tell him, you used to always bloody throw an alignment, but nowadays he's got that timing nailed down, and he is now a very top tier battler. Out comes Ho-Oh. Rigo fires off the Stone Edge, guaranteeing the final protection, or cleanly picking up the one shot, and we send out Palkia. Palkia gonna shield at the Brave Bird. Brave Bird debuffs their defense, the opponent already enough, and they are out of here. In the next battle, again we see Rhyperior in the lead position. This opponent opt to pivot out into Florges, and oh hello Florges, nice to see you nice. Meet Heatran. Heatran a complete wall to this energy. Anything in the opponent's arsenal is resisted. Holy moly, that actually healed us. Come to think of it, does Florges learn any attacks that aren't either grass or fairy? Because both grass and fairy are double resisted by Heatran's fire and steel typing. We go for the Magma Storm, fully undercharging, wanting to make this farm down somewhat easier. This does two things. It goes the opponent into trying to switch back out into Rhyperior, or if the opponent stays in, it means we tank more charge moves, meaning we leave less farm for that returning Rhyperior. We know it's coming out. Come on, trainer, send it out. The opponent actually gets one turn bring in, not sneaking their Mud Slap. We fire off the Earth Power, big damage as the opponent got one turn bring in. We even reach one more. Oh, trainer, am I sorry? Not really, as this is comedy value. The opponent sends out Kyurem, we send out Palkia, and the opponent probably very tilted and concede the match. Come on, Jamie, compose yourself, buddy. In the next battle, we've seen Duskmane in the lead position. A very nice lead for us, but a problematic say switch. Palkia. We go for the chip and dip. I like that chip and dip, as it means these Dragon Breaths are now debuffed, and we can easily maintain alignment, going for the one shield and full farm down. Rigo does exactly that. Duskmane re-enters the arena, but Palkia with a very nice energy lead, going to be able to chuck a little drink or two at this returning Necrozma. The first Aqua Tail goes unshielded. Rigo able to reach the next one. This next one won't be lethal, but will put him into the red health range. The opponent going to be unable to farm down either, and are going to be forced to throw energy. Dark Pulse picks up the knockout. We send out Landorus. Out comes Kyurem. Usually, I'd be jumping for joy if we saw this scenario, but down a Protect Shield, Heatran will struggle. Kyurem up shields just doesn't lose to anything. Despite type and effectiveness, these things have completely overrun the Master League with a monstrous stat product and moveset. They are so dominant. Rigo able to fire off one further Magma Storm, forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield, but Heatran's bulk is about to be put to the test. Can we survive this charge move? Just about. We then pivot out into Landorus. Landorus makes a very brief cameo appearance, dying to like 3 Ice Fangs. The opponent snipes with Duskmane, and that one will end in defeat. Heading into the next battle, we see Florges in the lead position. So after watching Home Size Henry's video yesterday, I know you have to throw a Santia Storm and then a Stone Edge to pick up the knockout. Also, shout out Henry for being the second expert this season. Good job, buddy. You are killing it. The dynamics of this matchup now change somewhat. As the opponent threw the Trailblaze first, the opponent is going to be able to outpace to the Moonblast if we commit to the Stone Edge. I'm not sure about this second debuff if we'd survive a Moonblast. Let's see how much this double debuff one does. Well, it looks like we certainly wouldn't have survived, so that looks like the correct play from Rigo. The opponent snipes with Palkia and Heatran hits the field of play. Heatran tearing through Dialga's HP. Rigo going to invest to Protect Shield, and then I imagine farm up to the double before unleashing any energy whatsoever. Rigo does exactly that, knowing the opponent's very unlikely to shield. And if they shield once, they'd be forced to shield twice. The opponent doesn't shield. Rigo able to get a massive Fire Spin farm down and leaves with so much energy. Out comes Duskmane, and my, is this energy going to go places? The first Magma Storm forces the opponent's first Protect Shield. Heatran already the next one, and this should put the opponent all shields down. The opponent continue to stay in. They then try and make a catch. The catch attempt is unsuccessful. All they do is give us the energy for the next Magma Storm. Heatran with that shield to hide behind. Going to be investing it here. And I believe this is actually a full Heatran sweep. GG's and thanks for playing. I actually want to get myself into Master League. I think I might do some raids this week and get them XLs ready for when the Heatran Shadow Raid Day comes out in the next battle. Again, we see Florges in the lead position. This opponent looks like they're at least looking to fake the Moonblast the first time. We fire off the Santia Storm, debuffing their attack. If this is a Trailblaze, I'm going to anticipate Rigo throwing the Santia Storm. If they go for the Moonblast, we do need to commit to a Stone Edge. Rigo is going to commit to that Stone Edge, knowing this is only a Disarming Voice or a Trailblaze. The opponent fire off the Trailblaze, which doesn't get the job done. Rigo actually going for the Santia Storm. Santia Storm, to my surprise, forces a Protect Shield, and the opponent is now going to get outpaced. We're able to reach one further Santia Storm. Santia Storm forces a double shield off the opponent and they dump energy. Heatran now has that 2-0 shield advantage. Oh baby, let's go Heatran. Heatran hits the field of play. The opponent pivots out into Rhyperior, and here comes Palkia. Palkia very, very advantageous into this matchup when we've got shield to hide behind. Rigo going to shield at the breaking swipe. Over farm, fire off the Aquatail. Aquatail double super effective damage. Aquatail picks up the one shot. As Rigo nicely overfarmed, if Florges returns, which it does, Rigo is going to be able to outpace to the Aquatail, and this will be removing Florges from the field of play. Out comes Machamp. You love to see it. I love Machamp, one of my favourite Pokemon, and also pretty good in this Kyurem meta. The opponent fire off the cross chop, picking up the knockout. We send out Heatran. Heatran, of course, is taking super effective damage here, but Rigo going to shield at the cross chop, put the Stamp of Authority, throw in the Earth Power. Is it necessary? No, it's not, Rigo. Why are you bullying my favourite Pokemon? Earth Power, massive overkill, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Landorus into Melmetal. The opponent safe switches into Palkia. Rigo actually opts for the Stone Edge, wanting to do more damage, but this ends up being a CMP tie. Stone Edge does land, putting them below half health. Rigo going to be investing this Protect Shield, blocking up the Aquatail. At this point, we can just go straight Santia Storm. Actually, it looks like Rigo has a plan, making a double resisted Aquatail catch onto Palkia. Very, very nicely done, buddy. Rigo's now going to set up himself a very nice energy lead for the returning Melmetal. I believe Double Iron Bash and Superpower is the preferred moveset nowadays, which makes this matchup quite scuffed for Melmetal. They're going to have to debuff their own attack and defense to do any meaningful damage. They fire the Superpower. Superpower actually isn't enough to get the job done. And with a debuff defenses, Aquatail is really going to chunk. The first one lands, Rigo able to fire off the next one on what looks like to be a CMP tie, and this Melmetal is essentially removed from the field of play. This tin can is now nothing but free farm for our Landorus that already has residual energy good to go. Out comes Kyurem. Rigo with the energy for the Stone Edge, goes to the Santia Storm bait, forcing the opponent's first Protect Shield, and Heatran enters the arena in the 1-to-1 shield scenario. Heatran now looking primed to sweep. Rigo going to be investing the easiest protect shield of his GBL career. He then fires off one fire spin and the Magma Storm. Magma Storm will be forcing the opponent's final protect shield. Rigo probably should have fired off one fire spin here, but he's anticipating this Magma Storm being lethal. Unfortunately, it isn't, but the opponent is going to dump energy and they're debuffed. So Fusion Flare simply will not get the job done. The opponent pivots out into Melmetal. They get Fire Spin farm down. Kyurem also gets Fire Spin farm down. And Heatran is going to sweep to close today's video. Holy cow, Rigo. What a submission, buddy. I am so jealous of that 15-14-14 Shadow Heatran you've got. When Shadow Heatran comes on a raid day, I'm going to be grinding that thing hard. The regular variant of Heatran is currently in raids. You can do one or two things. You can grind some, max out the regular variant, which I think would be very good in the current meta with all these fairies, Kyurem and steel types running around. Or you could grind them candies and wait for the Shadow Heatran raid day. But if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new. Consider subscribing if you like your battles featured on my channel. A link to a battles feature form is down below. And as always, a huge thanks to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.